Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm super excited to be doing the second update in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan. If you didn't see the first two videos in this series, you definitely should check them out so that you can kind of understand how I'm structuring the project, why I'm doing it, and all of that kind of stuff. So I will link the playlist up above. This series is inspired by my friend Alexi. She has done the Pan Those Eyeshadows project the past 2 years, like in 2018 and the year prior to that. And I was so inspired by her project, but I did decide to structure it a little bit differently for myself just based on my personal collection. And so far it's been working really well for me. I have had so much fun using these shades and incorporating them into my everyday looks, and I am working my hardest to hit pan on these shades. So yeah, I'm super excited to share with you guys my progress thus far. So let's just hop right into it. So my goal with every shadow that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is to hit pan on them, and once I hit pan on a shadow, I am going to rotate it out of the project and roll in a new one by randomly selecting something from my collection. So the first palette I want to share with you has been in here since the very beginning of the project pan, and that is the Colourpop Yes Please palette. The shade that I randomly selected for this palette was this guy right here. This is the shade, what's that shade called? Full Zip. And as you can see, I have not yet hit pan on it, which is crazy because this is just a great bone kind of shade. I use it every single day on my entire lid right up to the brow bone, even when I'm not really wearing any other eyeshadow. But if I'm doing any kind of makeup look, I have been reaching for this shade right here. I'm honestly shocked I don't have pan in it yet, and I can see it definitely is going to be soon. I was hoping it would be before this update. However, by the next update, there's no reason why I won't hit pan on this. So here is what the shadow is looking like at the moment. I did end up popping this out and putting it into a magnetic palette to work on it for the past month. So there is no progress on the rest of the palette. It definitely is coming soon, if not within the next couple days. I have a feeling like right after I film this update, I'm gonna end up hitting pan on it. But next time around, I'll definitely be able to roll in another shade in place of this one. And before we hop into the next palette, here's just a swatch of Full Zip. As you can see, you can't even see it on my skin tone. It really is just the perfect product to set my eyeshadow primer. And the next palette has also been here since the very beginning. This is the Zulu from Juvia's place, and the shade that I selected was shade number 2, which is the bright yellow in this palette. And as you can see, I clearly haven't hit pan on here. I have barely made a dent in this shade, even though I've been reaching for it so frequently. And that's just because not only was this palette a little bit less used in my collection, it was a newer palette to my collection when I rotated this in, but the pans are also absolutely massive. But I'm not mad about it. I'm really not mad that I haven't hit pan on this shadow because I have been reaching for it so much. I've been reaching for the palette as a whole so much and just really enjoying it. And yeah, here is the progress. You can't see anything different from last month, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm really not mad about it because it just means that I've been loving and enjoying and using this palette and reaching for it more often than I may not have before putting it into this project pan. And there is a swatch of that yellow shade. As you can see, it's really bright and vibrant, but it actually is a beautiful shade to put into the crease if I'm doing any warm toned looks or anything with like greens or oranges or reds. It ends up pairing really nicely with those kinds of shades, kind of brighter neutrals as well. So yeah, I'm really happy to be focusing on this. And this next shade comes from the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye palette. This is just a really good all neutrals kind of palette. Every shade in here is matte as well. And the shade that I selected is called Lazarus, which is the cool toned transition shade. And as you can see, guys, I did hit pan on this. I actually hit pan on this right after my last update went up, or maybe even before it went up. It might have been right after I filmed my last update. And there's pan right dead center in that pan. I have used it a handful of times since hitting pan on it. I have been reaching for it a couple times this past month just to continue to get use out of it. I mean, there's still so much product in here, but I'm so happy that I did hit pan on this. As you can see, the pan is all right. Like, it's definitely a significant amount of pan happening there. So I am really pleased with that, I'm really happy to have reached for this palette so much at the beginning of the year and to have made so much progress, but that's because I was multi-purposing this shade. Because it's a beautiful cool toned shade and it is matte, I can wear it as a contour. So I was doing just a slight contour here to really just bring a little bit of shape to my face, and I would use it through the front of my brows, and then it was a really great transition shade when I was wearing more cool toned looks. I'm excited to see if I end up rolling in another shade from this palette eventually by the end of this year, because it would be really nice to see a little bit more pan in this palette, hopefully within this year. So I'm not going to be swatching the shade from this palette since I did hit pan on it, and I only want to really swatch the shades that are going to be like the color scheme I'm working with here on out. But I'm so excited because now that I did hit pan on this shade, that means at the very end of this video, I will be rolling in one more shade to include in this project. This next shade was rolled in at the very first update because I did decide to declutter one of the palettes that was selected, and it comes from the Fenty Beauty Galaxy palette. This is absolutely filthy. I cannot seem to keep this palette clean at all, so please don't judge me for that. But the shade that I selected from this palette is called Space Out, and it does not have any pan yet, but I did not expect to see pan because this is a very underused palette from my collection. But Space Out is that shade right there, which is this beautiful, like, I want to say dusty purple, and like everything in this palette, it is a shimmer finish. It is definitely the most used looking shade in this palette, so I am really happy about that. So you can see the progress right there. Yes, it's not hitting pan, there's barely even a dent in there, but it definitely does look used in comparison to everything else in this palette and in comparison to what it looked like last month. So really, that's all that I can really ask for out of 1 month's progress. I am really happy with the amount of progress. I'm really happy to be incorporating this into looks. It's absolutely beautiful. So it definitely isn't the easiest eyeshadow to work with because it is so sparkly. It definitely requires a eyeshadow primer, like a glitter glue. I use the NYX glitter glue, and it also really does require the brush to be damp as well, just to really build it up. I can use this a little bit more sheer, but it can kind of look a little bit patchy because it does have that more gray, dusty sort of tone underneath of all of the shimmer. That's not to say I dislike it. I have been actually having a lot of fun playing with it, but it is a more difficult formula to use, so I haven't been able to just reach for it all that often, especially because it is a darker shade as well. And it is starting to kind of hit hard pan, so I might end up having to scrape this product out a little bit. We'll see how it goes over the next month, but there is a swatch of it. It is really pretty. Like I said, it's very dusty. It is a very smoky shade, so it doesn't pair well with that yellow by any means, but it is a beautiful shade and I'm happy to be working on it, and hopefully we can see some pan soon. We shall see. This next shade was also rolled in at my last update, and it comes from the ABH Subculture Palette. Yes, a controversial palette, but I've been really enjoying actually using this in several looks over this past month. And the shade that I selected is this one right here called New Wave, which is just a beautiful orange, like a really warm orange shade. I really do like it. And my progress is pretty good. I'm definitely starting to see a dent happen in this pan. I can wear this with the yellow. I can wear this kind of all over the lid on its own with like a bronzy brown, obviously, like a bronze on the lid or a copper on the lid or a gold on the lid. So it's really easy to reach for and to use frequently. And as you can see, there definitely is a dip starting to happen. This one right here is New Wave. There definitely is progress happening, which is great. Definitely what I was hoping to get out of this project, seeing progress, and hopefully I'll be able to hit pan on it relatively soon. There is a swatch of New Wave on the bottom. As you can see, it actually pulls so much more neutral when it is used than how it looks in the pan. I don't know if you can see that, but it definitely goes much more brown as opposed to a really warm orange. And I do quite like that. I know it's deceiving what it looks like in the pan, but I do really like the way that it looks on my lids, and it definitely does oxidize, but in a good way in my opinion, because I do really like this shade. And the final shade that's currently in this project comes from the Colourpop Dream Street palette, And again, it's a really bright, bold shade, but it is a really fun color, and it is this bright red, the boldest shade in this whole palette. And this is the shade called Spark. It is a beautiful red with a little bit of a pinky white undertone. So it does make it really easy to wear alongside warm tones and cool tones. I really do find that this is a very versatile red, which I didn't really know I could, like, that kind of shade existed for eyeshadow until I started really playing with this and seeing it in all these different color combinations. And I'm really happy with my progress. Unfortunately, no pan yet, but I'm having so much fun playing with it. So as you can see, there definitely is a dip starting to happen in the pan. Actually, in reaching for this palette, I did end up hitting pan ever so slightly on the shade Magical as well, which is just the teeniest, tiniest pan. I'm not even sure you'll see it there. But alas, I managed to hit a little bit of an accidental pan over this past month, and I'm not gonna complain about that at all. I'm actually so happy that I managed to hit pan in a different shade in this palette. And that is a swatch of Spark right there, just a beautiful matte red shade. And this color story has been a lot of fun. It's a really good color story, except I'd say Space Out is the only thing that kind of is a little bit out of place from this color story, but that doesn't mean I haven't had fun playing with these shades. And I'm really excited to see what shade I'm going to randomly select from my collection for the final addition to this project. So yeah, let's just pull that shade right now. So I do have all of my eyeshadows in a Google spreadsheet, and as you guys may or may not know, I recently did declutter several eyeshadows from my collection. However, I have added some eyeshadows to my collection over this past month as well, because I did do a makeup swap with Undercover Panner on Instagram, and she sent me 2 fairly large eyeshadow palettes actually. So my count is basically still at the exact same as it was last month. We're currently at 266 pans of eyeshadow. Bear in mind, some of those already do have pan on them, and I think if I roll a product that does have pan on it, I may either decide to not have it in the project at all, or I might decide I actually want to try to finish it up depending on the eyeshadow. So we're gonna just roll that last shade. I'm putting into the app Pretty Random, I'm putting the minimum 1 and the maximum will be 266. So let's just go for it. It just randomly draws one number right from the start, but let's just go and randomize now. So I have the shade 209. So as soon as I looked at my spreadsheet and I read what shadow belonged in the shade number 209, I was a little bit scared because it comes from this palette right here. This is the Blush Tribe Blossom palette. I got this actually as a declutter from Alexi, and I've been enjoying it, but I haven't really used this palette all that much, and I'm not familiar with which shade aligns with which name, so I was like, uh-oh, there's gonna be a bright blue or something. However, I actually got a pretty decent shade, like something that goes really well with the rest of the color selection, and it's this shade right here called Zinnia, and it's like almost like a neon peach. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't think I've used it yet once, so there is a little bit of wear, but that's just from Alexi, and it's very minimal wear anyways, but I don't think I've even swatched this shade. So I'm really excited about that, and I think it's gonna go very well with the shade selection that I already have. So I'm just gonna build up a swatch for you guys and show you. Oh, it's actually quite sheer compared to what it looks like in the pan. But that is the shade right there. So like I said, it slightly has a little bit of a neon kind of hint to it, but it definitely is a peachy shade, and I'm really excited about that. I think that looks absolutely beautiful with the shade selection that I have here. That might look really cool in the crease alongside Space Out actually, just because it might kind of contrast it without being too bold or too bright. I think this is going to be a really fun color combo to be reaching for, and I'm actually really excited to incorporate this palette into more looks than I have done as of late. This is going to pair really nicely with the Juvia's Place palette as well, and I'm very excited for this. I was so nervous when I saw the name, but I'm really excited that that's the shade that I selected. I'll show you what I have for progress there really isn't much other than the fact that I just swatched it, but it is this shade right here, Zinnia, and as you can see, very minimal progress, but we're gonna work towards trying to hit pan on it, and I'm really, really excited to be playing with all these bold colors as we're very slowly making our way into spring here. So I'm very, very excited. So I'm sure you guys can tell I'm super amped up about this color selection and all of the palettes I'm gonna be reaching for over the next month, probably into the next few months. I'm really hoping to hit pan on Full Zip from the Yes Please palette. I don't see that being a problem at all over the coming month. And other than that, I honestly do not know how much longer these shadows are gonna last in this project, but I'm okay with that because the color selection is beautiful and it means I'm gonna be reaching for all of these palettes so much more than I may not have otherwise. So yeah, I'm really excited about this project, and I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing this update. I hope that you enjoy seeing more looks from me over the next month, incorporating these shadows as I have done over the last month. Like basically every video except for today, but every video that's been on my channel over this past month, I have been wearing looks incorporating these shadows. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so happy about this project. I'm really happy that I decided to do this and like just go for it and do this within this year, because it means that I'm just using what I have, and yeah, I'm so excited about it. So thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me. Sorry for getting rambly at this end part. I always do. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.